Hi there and welcome to episode 9 of my inexplicably popular series, What Am I Listening To and Why? The premise is simple. I take the last 6 records that have been on my turntable in vinyl that I own, and then I take them out and I'll give you 2 minutes unrehearsed talk on each one. Let's crash right in there. Number 1 on my turntable right now, it's Iggy Pop and his second solo LP, The Idiot. Now, this is an album that I first had on cassette when I was a squatter in London in the early 80s, and I remember playing it quite a lot then. And I still play this album. It's the only Iggy Pop album that I really like. It's the only one that I think is strong all the way through. People say the other, I can't remember what the first album's called. David Bowie is over both those albums, and he's all over this. Believe it or not, David Bowie played keyboards for Iggy Pop on the tour with us, which I find quite amazing. Yes, it's got that smiley face cover that looks like it's just really, really wrong for the record. I think that's why it's so good. It's 1977, it's kind of proto-punk. The sound is incredibly crunchy, but the songs are amazingly strong. Of course, we all know Lust for Life from Trainspotting. Try and put that out of your head. It's got The Passenger. My favourite song on the album is a track called Success. It's glam, it's punk, it's crunchy, it's got a very cheap microphone sound, which is absolutely perfect. 1977, Iggy Pop, Lust for Life, 7.5. Number 2 in this week's selection is someone I had absolutely no fucking time for back in the day. This is Gary Numan. This is his first solo LP, The Pleasure Principle, after the Tubeway Army. I don't know what the fucking story was there. Anyway, I can't keep this off my turntable at the moment, and I really, really didn't like Gary Numan at all. I found him a soulless jellyhead fucking Tory flyboy, which he was all of those things, but actually nowadays I love these records. I love the early Gary Numan records. I love the keyboards on them, obviously. It's all kind of pads, but the thing about it that I think is really great, it's got everything's real drums, and that sort of kind of gives it an edge. A lot of this LP is kind of instrumental. There's not a lot of singing on it. Now you might think that's a good thing. It kind of is a good thing. I like Gary Numan when he's like this and he's doing isolation, loneliness, I wish I was Bowie. It's a bit like that. I like the isolation and the loneliness and the electronic Gary Numan. Can't be arsed with him now, because you know what, everything he does now is post-apocalyptic wasteland. That's all he does now. Loads of wind and rags. Can't be fucking bothered with it. This I really love. I played it about 5 times in the last 3 days. It's great. It's a fucking 9. Gary Numan, The Pleasure Principle. Record number 3 is quite an odd one. This was one I also had on cassette. I think I had a Walkman at the time, so it was mid-80s, so I had this on cassette as well. This is the third Specials album, kind of. It's called In the Studio, and it's listed as Special AKA. Now, if you bought this album in the 80s, as I did, expecting a third Specials album, you were going to be sorely fucking disappointed. Because there's barely any Specials on it. Not really. It's got Jerry Dammers, John Bradbury on the drums. The rest of the names, not so much the Specials. It's a different kind of thing. It's a slower paced, less frantic kind of thing. One thing I really do love about it though is the cover. That cover is so fucking classy. I'd buy that record just for that cover. It's like a sort of Frank Sinatra album or something. It's truly wonderful. I didn't really like this record when I was younger, but as I've got older, I've kind of grown into it now, and I see that it's actually an adult-orientated album. It really is. And it's about 70% good. And there's lots of bits that I don't want to hear anymore. I do not want to hear Free Nelson Mandela, or a couple of the other tracks. But mostly, it's pretty goddamn good. Don't expect a big ska thing. because you're not going to get that. This was also produced by Elvis Costello, I think. If you want a slower, more thoughtful approach to your two-tone, then this just might be the album for you. From about 1984, I think, in the studio by Special AKA. It's a... Ooh, it's a 6.5, 7. No, it's a 7. Record number 4 is something we've not had on the show before. This is a soundtrack. This is a soundtrack to a TV program from the 1970s. Don't worry, it's not Terry and June. It's, excuse me, it's the Rutles. Now, if you don't know what the Rutles was, Eric Idle from Monty Python fame, he had a TV program called Rutland Weekend Television, and they made an offshoot of the thing, which is a sort of spoof on the Beatles, called the Rutles, and it was Neil Innes, Eric Idle, I can't remember who else, but this is the music from the film. Every track was written by Neil Innes, and is a sort of spoof of different eras of the Beatles. It's absolutely beautifully done. It's really brilliantly done. If you haven't seen it, it's actually on YouTube. Just look up the Rutles. It's about an hour long. There's a lot, I mean, it's of its time, you've got to say that these days. It's of its time, but there's a lot of good laughs in it, and the music is sublime. And Neil Innes claims to not have listened to the Beatles before writing this. That, my friends, is a fucking lie. It can get a little bit wearing. I'd be lying to say that it doesn't sort of run out of steam at times, but in general, it's an amazing piece of work. And I look at it as part of my Beatles collection. That's how much I think of the Rutles record. As I say, if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. Definitely go and watch it. Or if you haven't seen it for a long time, go back and have a watch. It stands a replay. George Harrison's in it, and that's always makes it worthwhile for me. The Rutles, Let It Rut. I don't know if that's what the album was called. The Rutles, All You Need Is Cash is what it's called. It's a comedy record. We don't really do these. A comedy soundtrack record, but I'll give this bastard an 8. Record number 5 is an old pal of mine. You're all going to groan when you see this, but you know. Why, it's Joe Strummer and his last album, Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros, and his final album, Streetcore, which was finished after he died. So that's does that make it a posthumous record? I suppose it does. Joe Strummer, Streetcore, Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros. This is a really strong piece of work. I think it's his best. It's a shame. It's his best solo album, and he never saw it. He got as far as doing bare bones tracks in the studio and the guide vocal. And luckily for the band, when Joe did a guide vocal, he put as much into the guide vocal as he did into the real vocal. So they were able to come in. I think it was about a year, maybe 2 years later, they came in and they actually finished the album without him. I suppose we're saying, I wonder what Joe would have done. I don't think they would have done that. They would have just fucking did their best with it. It's a beautiful record. It's beautifully packaged. You get to see what Joe's working environment from home was like, which is very interesting. The one I've got is in white vinyl, which is always meh. I'm never that keen on the coloured vinyls anymore. But this is definitely worth it. If you don't have any Strummer albums and you're looking for the best one, this is the best one. It's the rockiest one, it's got the best production, and it's got the strongest songs. So yeah, Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros, Streetcore. What year was this? I keep forgetting to do the years. It's like am I Italian? It's 2003. Pete, remember to read the bloody things before you come on this bloody television. 2003. This is... It's an 8. It's the one to have. The final album today, album number 6, is it's a little gem. This is 1977. It's Mink Deville's Cabretta album. This is the first Mink Deville album. Now, I only started listening to Mink Deville about a year and a half ago because we all know the song Spanish Stroll. I heard it on the radio one day and I thought, that's such a great song. What else did they do? turns out Mink Deville, who were fronted by a guy called Willie Deville here, made loads of fucking really good records. Loads of really good records, and I started fucking buying them. But this is the first album, Cabretta, from 1977, and it's the best album. Again, it's the New York CBGBs and all of that. But this is an incredibly romantic record, and all the ladies love Willie. The ladies all love Willie, and who wouldn't? He was the sort of guy who would come on stage with a, you know, a long coat and I was just going to say a sheepskin guitar. Not a sheepskin guitar, a leopard skin guitar. It was very much all of that. Willie Deville, unfortunately, he died in his early 50s of a really violent, horrible cancer, I don't know. And everybody fucking rates him. Having looked on the internet, everyone's like, ah, Willie Deville, Willie Deville. This man had nothing! He died with 60p in his pocket! It's one of those things. It's really tragic. But this is a beautiful romantic album, and if you don't cry or tear your heart out and throw it across the room while listening to this record, there's fucking something wrong with you. Cabretta, I never knew what that was. I thought it was a car. I was calling this album Carburettor for ages, but a cabretta is a type of leather which is really tough but really, really soft as well. And that's what Willie thought of himself, so that's why he called it. There you go. This album's probably a 9, really. It's probably the best album there. Now, I want to get to some fucking serious shit. These videos are doing absolutely great. On Facebook, I'm getting about 700 views, which is great for Facebook, but I'm only getting 15 shares. 700 views, 15 shares. Please, if you've watched this video to the end, please share it. Just hit that share button. You'd really be helping me out a lot. If you're watching them on YouTube, like, subscribe, and send it to some cunt. You'd really be helping me out. That would be great. Share it. I always forget to say that, but I really mean it. If you've watched this far and you don't share it, I'm going to come down there and